and greetings, everyone here today. I'm honestly overjoyed to see so many faces attending this wonderful TEDx event. And thank you for the organizers for having us here today. Now, what we have on the screen is the Fermi paradox. Let's get into it. Our universe is dying. Well, at least according to the Fermi paradox. Now, let me elaborate on you with that. So, what exactly is the Fermi paradox? We're going to be getting into that a little later. However, our universe is roughly in diameter about 93 billion light years. Yes, I said that with a B. Right. And in our universe, we have a plethora of different stardust clusters, galaxies, planets, exoplanets, and stars. Now, let's talk about the galaxies. There are about 100 billion galaxies. Again, that's with a B. And in those galaxies, as some might know, we have stars. Now, we have roughly from 100 to 1,000 billion stars within our galaxies. That leads us to the question that, of course, we know that there are planets as well. But the real question here is today, if we have so many planets, so many stars, so many galaxies out there, the wonderful virtues of life and the fruitful verses of existence are incompatible with these numbers. Where is everyone at? Where are the extraterrestrial life forms? Where are the aliens? Of course, aliens may be somewhat of fan fiction out there. Maybe some people don't understand what that is. Maybe some people understand what it is, but don't really believe in it. Me personally, I unequivocally believe in aliens. Now, what exactly is that? First of all, let me ask you guys a question. How many of you guys here today have ever thought of where the aliens are at? How many people here today have looked up at the stars and wondered, where exactly is everyone at? Can I see a raise of hands? That is wonderful. Honestly, I'm in the same boat as you. Of course, the boat might be sinking, but nonetheless. Now, let me elaborate on you with the existence of aliens. Of course, it is no new news for our scientific discoveries today that there are many planets, many galaxies within our observable universe. But if there are so many galaxies, so many planets, there should be hundreds, if not trillions, of chances for advanced civilizations, extraterrestrial civilizations, to develop. But where exactly are they at? Of course, this is our local group, or the Milky Way. How many people here today know what the Milky Way is? Okay, I see a few hands. Maybe you know what the Milky Way is? Alright, that's great. Now, everything outside our direct local group, or the Milky Way, is basically out of our reach forever. That might sound a little morbid, that might sound a little sad. I know, of course. But let me explain why exactly everything is so far away, why everything is so dislocated within our universe. Well, that's because of a simple thing called expansion. You guys know what expansion is? Yeah, I've heard it a few times. Maybe IELTS, maybe just general English. But expansion is when something grows bigger and bigger in all sides. So, left, right, up, down, space-time, everything is growing apart at a breakneck pace. Roughly, the speed can't be calculated because our universe is expanding faster than the speed of light. Of course, that might sound weird. There's nothing faster in our universe than the speed of light. The question is in our universe. Our universe is everything. That's why it has the potential to be expanding faster than what the limits is set upon itself. Now, we have about 400 billion stars in our Milky Way alone. Yeah, that is a lot of stars. Who agrees? 400 billion? Now, of course, this number is just predicated on the stars that are akin to our own star. So they're not red stars, they're not red dwarf stars, and they're of course not the black holes that both stars. Now, we have about 20 billion sun-like stars in our Milky Way. So that's eliminating all the small stars, the big stars, and the supernova gliders. We have a fifth of those stars are orbited by Earth-like planets. Now, Earth-like planets, what are they? They're basically the planets that are orbiting the sun at the distance that we like to call the Goldilocks zone. Who has ever heard of the Goldilocks zone? No one. Well, let me explain. The Goldilocks zone is basically the silver lining between too cold and too hot. It's right in between. The exact temperature that is needed for sapient life forms to evolve and to progress. Now, this right here is a little chart, the life of our universe. Now, who knows, for how many years has our universe been expanding for? How old is our universe? Does anybody know?
14 billion.
Almost 14 billion years old, yes. Roughly 13.8 billion years old, right? That is a lot of years. And our own planet, the Earth, has only existed for roughly 4 billion years. It's technically an infant in this apparatus, per se. Now, if our universe is so unfathomably old, and we, the Earth, have only been existing for roughly 4 billion years, where are the other planets that have had hundreds, if not thousands of more years to develop, to progress, and to conquer? Now, to put this into perspective, if there are roughly 400 billion stars in our universe, as I previously said, it would take you, if you were to count one per second, it would take you 100 lifetimes just to get to a fifth of that number. Just imagine counting 1, 2, maybe 3, 4, 5, indefinitely. For 100 lifetimes, you have to count just to get to 1/5 of 400 billion, the number. Now, some people in the audience might think, what is this guy talking about? I'm not going to be counting for the rest of my life, and for another 99 lives, I don't even have that much. That is true. But what else is true is that the amount of stars out there are just so extreme, are just so large, so numerous, that people can't truly grasp their quantity. Now, as I was previously talking about aliens, and about how long our universe has existed for, of course I have to talk about the opportunities that life has been given. Time is a virtue. Time is most likely infinite and constant. And as time passes, things progress. Let's look at the 19th century. In the 19th century, we didn't have such technology like we do have in the 21st century, just, I don't know, 200 years later. Every day, every year, every decade, and every century, something new happens. Our universe is constantly progressing. Our universe is constantly expanding. And because our universe is just so unfathomably old, we have to ask the question, if we, humans, Homo sapiens, have only been existing for a certain fraction of that amount, and have been able to get technology, get food, get easy access to clean water, and use the resources that our Earth envelopes, and of course be able to gather here in this TED today. Where are the other aliens? What are the other aliens doing? Now, let's talk about the Kardashev scale. Has anyone here today ever heard of the Kardashev scale? No one. Interesting. Let me explain. The Kardashev scale is basically a scale that counts the energy usage and intake of a civilization. There is a type 1 civilization, which is just a little ahead of our times. A type 1 civilization is able to use and utilize their whole planet's resources and siphon them into energy usage and energy production. Such issues such as using their waters for cleansing and for getting exhibition energy. And then we have our type 2 civilizations. Now, who can give me a certain guess? What is a type 2 civilization? Does anyone have any ideas? No one. Exactly. All right, that's great. What's your name? Great answer. That's exactly right. A type 2 civilization is capable of using the sun's, the mother star's, whole energy, that's roughly 90 non-million gigawatts of energy. That is an absurd amount. Frankly, I have no idea what they're going to be using that energy for, but they're probably going to have to build some sort of contraption to trap that energy of the sun and utilize it for further usage. Now, how do they do that? They use a hypothetical contraption called a Dyson sphere. A Dyson sphere is basically a contraption made out of different slanted mirrors that get different rays and float them back into each other, constantly creating new ways of getting energy. Now, we have our last type 3. Alright, this is a little interesting. A type 3 civilization can use the energy of its entire galaxy. It can literally use every single one of those 400 billion stars, of those 1,000 trillion planets, and use it for themselves. At this point, the human race would probably be ants like them in their little sandbox. That does sound a little frightening. And yes, it truly is. Now, to put that into perspective, if we were to be able to build hypersonic spaceships that could last us roughly 1,000 years, or 8 generations or so, then we'd be able to conquer the Milky Way in only 2 million years. Okay, that sounds like a lot of years, but now let's just think that our whole universe has existed for 13 billion years. Now, if the human race would hypothetically be able to do that, accomplish that task in 13 billion years, then what would the different aliens, what would the extraterrestrial life forms that are probably more technologically advanced do in our position? Well, I'll tell you what they would do. They would most definitely finish the task a lot faster. And when I'm saying a lot faster, I mean a lot faster, because I'm giving this example as purely hypothetical. Who knows out there the aliens are doing that right now? They probably even have some sort of interstellar warps from fiction that we admire today. Now, welcome to the Fermi paradox. Let me explain. The Fermi paradox is talking about an ever-expanding universe. A universe where the galaxies are going further and further apart from each other. Now, some might get the question, how come there are 2 galaxies that are going to collide into each other? Well, they're not actually colliding. The Milky Way and Andromeda, they're not colliding into each other. They're getting into a small intersection point where they turn into a swirl and then become one. Because the universe is just constantly expanding. It's every single galaxy in the observable universe is going further and further apart from one another. Now, this is going to be extremely hard to understand if you haven't ever thought about space or space exploration or any of the above. But here today, I see a group of individuals that have definitely thought about the future, that have definitely experienced what it is like to have motivation and innovation in their hearts. Now, let's talk about filters. There are different filters out there. Filters that you can use to make a cup of coffee. Filters that you can use on Instagram, right? But in this sense, a filter is somewhat of an obstacle, a barrier. Now, for life to exist, there are different filters that should be overcome. Now, we, as a species, have overcome many different filters, ones such as hunger, poverty, starvation, famine, and all of the above. We've conquered 2 world wars, and we're still alive. But that leads me to the question, are there more filters in the future? Are there more filters that could possibly lead to the death and destruction of our species? Now, cool thought experiment would be the red button experiment. Now, just think of a very advanced alien civilization, probably type 3 or maybe even type 4 civilization, that has complete and utter access to everything that their galaxy stores, that their galaxy embodies. They create a red button. Now, while pressing this red button, would the with just one click of a finger, tentacle, or paw, they are unknowingly going to blow up their entire galaxy because they manufacture an unusable product. But they don't know that. Probably the last words of every single advanced alien civilization would be, if I press this button, all our problems will go away. You press the button, and everything blows up in an instant. Blows up to smithereens. These filters are simple mistakes that every race is going to experience, that every race is going to eventually make. Now, maybe instead of filters, we have ancient Type 3 civilizations, the ones akin to gods that maybe even created us. And they are monitoring all the progressing and all the advancing civilizations out there. And when a civilization reaches the point where it can pose a threat to the ancient Type 3 civilizations, they just, boom, blow up the different worlds, blow up the different planets. Because they want complete and utter supremacy in the universe. They don't want any other competitors out there. So while they're weak, they can let them expand and conquer maybe a few planets, but when they get strong enough, these civilizations are just going to blow them up. Or maybe our last thought experiment would be that there is silence. Now, this is probably the scariest one of them all. There is nothing more frightening than thinking of a dead universe. A universe so big and bright, but so dead and shallow. This is the scariest one for me, honestly, and probably for you guys as well, because if our universe is indefinite, and most likely extremely vast and infinite, and there's no one, except for us, that just sends shivers down my spine. Is that scary? Let me see you raise your hands. Is anyone frightened by the fact that we're completely and utterly alone in the universe? Well, I completely agree with you guys. Because at the end of the day, if there is no one out there answering our calls or contacting us, then we, the Homo sapiens of the future, are going to have to conquer the galaxy, the star clusters, and eventually the universe, to make sure that we are here until the universe breathes its final breath and turns into oblivion. It is never too late. That's most definitely why we, here today, have to focus on the future. Our nation is one that is honestly progressing at a breakneck pace. A nation that is amazing in all aspects. We have our youth, our technologically advanced youth in a progressing and developing country that are making such insane strides in technological advancement that it honestly kind of scares me. Therefore, a short, concise conclusion to this speech would be that it is never too late to start working today for a better tomorrow. Thank you.